Let's now bring in senior writer of the Herald Sun, Patrick Carline. Patrick, with the Queensland state election coming up in October, it seems Stephen Miles has learned giggling like a schoolgirl won't keep him in power. Tough immigration policies might. And he can read a poll as well as anyone, and immigration is shaping up to be a critical issue at both federal and state level. Stephen Miles is backing Peter Dutton's call for a severe cut in migration numbers. This has surprised many, but not me. I think Stephen Miles is a savvy politician and he knows what Queenslanders want to hear.
Absolutely. Look, I think if there wasn't a Labor monopoly across the states, you'd hear more state premiers talking like this, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You can't make 2 + 2 = 3, and that's what's happening with this migration policy at the moment, where you're getting a lot more people coming in than houses being built.
But yet they tell us it's not adding to the housing crisis.
Of course it is.
Defies logic.
Of course it is. And look, I think it's important that Peter Dutton's sort of brought this debate to the table. It's such an important debate, isn't it? I mean, it defines who we are and how we live, the number of migrants we have. And there's not enough houses at the moment. It's a very simple equation.
It absolutely is, and the polling on this is clear. We know the overwhelming majority want a cut to migration numbers, and the will of the majority has been completely ignored, and by both sides of politics for many years, it must be said. It hasn't just been Labor. Labor's ramped up the numbers to record amounts, but they were pretty high under coalition governments too.
Absolutely, and I think, look, we all suffer for the fact that if somebody suggests, cutting migration, they risk being labelled as racist or anti-multicultural or whatever. It's such an important debate. It's something that we need to be talking about, and we need to be across in a big way. And like you say, I think there is a silent majority who sort of do wonder.
And we're an island nation. That's one of the benefits, is we should be able to have a population policy that we determine. This is our ideal population. This is where we want to be. Yep. And then we set policies to achieve that. Most countries where they've got porous borders can't do that. Now, let's go to our home state of Victoria, and the state government's reliance on property taxes is seeing land tax rates soar to unsustainable levels for many families and landlords who are preparing to sell up. Patrick, we can expect to see rents going up higher as the rental pool becomes more and more constrained, because some of the examples we're seeing, and I think we've got some examples from the Herald Sun today. One property owner reveals his family was hit with a $43,000 bill for a little beach shack they've got down in Safety Beach, about an hour and a half from Melbourne, which has been in his wife's family since the 40s. He says since 2021, the land tax on this simple holiday home has increased from around $12,000 to $43,000. So $12,000 to $43,000 in 3 years. It's going to keep going up, and we're going to see more and more homes on the market. And some will say, well, that's a good thing because maybe that will bring down prices. But that hasn't been the experience in Victoria, has it? Because we saw last year there was a report that 1 in 4 landlords in Victoria had sold a property. That did nothing to alleviate the housing shortage.
Look, I mean, it's not fair. It's a dishonest tax to begin with. It's going to push up rents. If you're a landlord, obviously, you've got to cover your own bills. And if your bills are high because of this silly tax, you're going to put it on the renters. So it rips off renters, firstly. It's also very dishonest. They talk about making up, it's a COVID debt sort of levy. It's paying for all the infrastructure projects that most Victorians either don't understand or don't think that we need. I mean, we've got a state debt of it's approaching $180 billion.
Highest in the country.
And, when the Dan Andrews government came in 2014, that debt sat at $20 billion. This is not to repay COVID. This is to repay the mismanagement of the finances of the state. And it's drastically unfair and very anti-aspirational.
Absolutely. And people will say, and I know people around the country say, well, you voted for this, you're Victorians, this is what you want, but what options do we have? It's not like we've got an opposition that is coming up with bold policies, they're pretty much on the same bandwagon. They haven't committed to reducing state taxes or what they're going to do to drastically cut debt. They've got the same crazy energy policies as Labor.
That's true.
So, yeah, stop blaming Victorians. It's victim blaming, is that what that is? And we've also got the Victorian state government warning landlords that they've got a rental task force coming after them in increased numbers. Inspectors and investigators are going to be performing spot checks and looking into renters' complaints with powers to fine and even prosecute landlords in court. I think they're sending a very clear message here to property investors. Invest elsewhere in the country. Perhaps Victoria isn't for you.
Absolutely. Look, I do feel sorry for renters at the moment. I mean, rents are going up. Cost of living is going up. Some of them are getting very desperate in ways that they weren't 2 or 3 years ago. But landlords are facing the same sorts of issues as well. And I think there are lots of laws as it is for egregious landlord behaviour. We certainly don't need sort of inspectors turning up, sort of, knocking on the door saying, we're just checking to see whether you fixed the hot water or whatever,
Because it won't be abused either. I mean,
of course not.
please.